We are going to talk about ceramic underglazes tonight. So I'm going to give it a few minutes and let a few people get on. Hopefully. Okay, we've got a couple of people coming on. Good evening, everyone. How are you guys? Be sure and post in the chat, say hello. Hey, Miss Brenda. How are you? I hope you guys didn't get too much rain down there. All right, Jenny, do you see me live? Because I don't see it. Okay. All right, so we're going to give it a few minutes, guys, to let a few people get on. So tell me where you're from. Say hello. Hello, Lisa and Sharon. Hey there from Ohio. So hopefully everybody is safe tonight with all the rain and everything that's been going on. Hey, Miss Tissa. She's down there, I believe, in Louisiana, or some of that. Alabama. Okay. So be sure and say hello. So tonight we're going to talk about Colors for Earth ceramic underglazes, specifically the color concentrates, which are a translucent underglaze made for bisque, greenware, or you can do Majelica work with them. Hey, Janet. Hey, Den. Superior, Wisconsin. Yeah, tell me where you're from, and we'll let a few more people. It looks like we've got quite a bit. Hey, Miss Cindy, you made it. All right. Hey, Isabel. How are you? Anyway, okay, so I'm going to show you on bisque, and then I'm also going to show you on greenware how you can do the same thing, just you add one product for the bisque, and then on greenware you don't add that product. So we will go over all of that. So what I'm going to do is, I think we've got enough on here that I'm going to transfer to my overhead camera. Okay. All right, guys. Okay. I don't know. I had to refresh. Sorry about that. Um, So the question is whether or not I'm still live on Facebook or it started a new session. Can you tell me, Jenny? Okay. All right. Sorry, guys. You might tell them they may have to refresh also because I don't see any comments at all. And I'm going to wait. Okay. All right, guys, hang loose. We're trying to make sure. Um, okay. All right. So I can't see any comments. So you'll have to read. Jenny is in the background, so she'll have to read comments to me when I had to refresh to make sure we were still live. I cannot see any comments. So I'm going to try to switch the camera again and see what happens. Okay. hide. Okay, so can you still hear me now? Okay, all right, guys. Sorry about that. All right, so this is the piece that I posted. I did this years and years ago, actually 1999 it says, but it was, you guys liked it, and it was done with a different product, but I'm going to show you because that was, what, 20 some years ago. Um, I'm going to show you how to use like a light and a dark color for each of the different flowers, how to put the black background in, and that type of thing. Okay. So what I've got is a piece of bisque here. So this is ceramic bisque that I've got. And I drew out the pattern just by using a pencil. You know, I traced around my size, whether it's a plate or whatever you're doing. I turned it upside down, traced around it so I had the size of it. And then I just started sketching. And I think I've showed you guys in some other videos how you can determine the size of a flower. And I won't do this one in the middle, but I'll show it again. So you draw a circle and draw a circle in the middle. So you have a donut, basically. Okay. And then you make a Y, and you have two large sections and a small. You divide the two large sections, and now you have a perfect 5-petal flower. So when I make this, and then you can adapt and do daisies or do your, you know, your standard 5-petal flower, the daisy. You can make sunflowers, anything, but that's the basics of how you can create a design. Okay. And then what we're going to do is I'll show you how I determine how far in my black is going to go and to create that. All right. So to transfer, I'm going to use that Statler Triplus fine liner that we've used in other videos. Okay. And I'm going to just go over my pencil lines. So I traced half of this before we went live. And this is just tissue paper that I'm using. And this is a watercolor or a water-based marker. I'm going to show you how to transfer it onto greenware also. And we're going to use a Sharpie marker. And all of my technique packets tell you how to transfer to different surfaces. Okay. So anything that you buy from me, it has all these instructions in there, because you may be wanting to put the design on something different than what I did it on. And if you don't go slow enough, sometimes the marker doesn't have time to bleed through. These particular markers have like a Sharpie point. That's the reason I like them. And they don't bleed when you add the product or moisture on top of them. Now, if you do it too much, they will. But the regular Crayola watercolor markers, those tend to bleed when you put product on them, and you could get like this pink or purple halo. And a lot of times that bothers people. So that's kind of the reason I went to these many years ago. I would not use a Sharpie on top of bisque. I would only use these water-based markers, okay? Because Sharpie can cause product to repel. So that's just my rule of thumb, okay? So now I'm on greenware, and the greenware is pretty much the same size, but slightly smaller. So you can use the Sharpie fine point, extra fine, excuse me, ultra fine point Sharpie markers. I think you can see that. It's like, you know, the really, really fine. Don't use the big ones, okay? They tend to, you could have issues with them. You're putting down too much, and they changed the Sharpies probably 13, 15 years ago, and they're just not the same. They have more of a wax base to them. As long as you're not trapping the Sharpie between the bisque and glaze. So like the greenware, you have to fire to bisque, okay? So I'm not even going to worry about the pattern on this one. I'm just going to sketch it on so that you can see again on how to do that, and it'll go much quicker. So if I wanted to add a smaller one here, and I don't have to put all of it on, you just want the gist of it. And maybe you want a daisy. So you're going to make your Y, do your 2 large areas, and then I just come over the top of that, add one here. So I'm just adding based upon kind of what I see. Okay. And then here's another. Don't gouge your greenware. Okay. And I'm not even going to put leaves on there either. I'm just going to wing it so you guys can see how easy it is to do. Let's do one larger. Okay. Any questions, Jenny, while I'm doing this, or comments? Okay. Okay. So somebody asked again the name of the marker. It's Statler, and I may not be pronouncing that right. Triplus Fine Liner. There's different ones. Make sure you get the fine liner. Okay. That's because the other ones are more like a brush tip, and they're going to deposit too much product and give you this huge line. Okay. All right. So we're going to use color concentrates. I like to use the little paint wells, and then I usually put a sponge in the middle so that I can wipe off my brush. Okay. And we've got some prizes tonight, so be sure you comment, ask questions, say hello, because at the end, Jenny will, we're giving away a set of CC 101 in the 2-ounce size and designer glaze medium, which is what you're going to use if you're on bisque to create that black background. One of the other prizes is a color concentrate kit number 3, and these are the colors that are in it. And then we're going to give away was it a 4-round, Jenny? Yeah, I think that's it. The Colors for Earth Kolinsky round. This is a size 4. So those are the 3 prizes for tonight. Okay. All right. So I used blues, yellows, pinks. You could do any color combination. So let's start with the pink. Always, and I'm using the 1-ounce size. This is the 2-ounce size. And then we have them in the pints also. The kits, I believe, are still on sale on the website. We have 3 different kits, or you can buy them individually. Always shake your color. Okay, they are thixotropic, so they congeal in the bottle until you shake them. Okay, I'm going to move that sponge because I'm going to do brush strokes. So you need a light and a dark of the colors. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put out all of my different colors here. Here's my yellow. So I used the 30 is blush cabernet and deep cranberry 32, 132. And then I'm using 122 lemon peel and 125 curry is my dark. So Jenny, we still got people on there since I can't see any of that. Okay. All right. All right. I know you guys can't hear Jenny, but she's remotely helping me if you're new to the lives. Okay. All right. And then we're going to use 150 light cerulean. And then I'm going to add 143 sapphire blue with it. Now, anytime you do a brush stroke, you need to make sure that the colors are the same consistency if you're going to load those colors on your brush. Okay. So this blue, the sapphire blue, is a little thicker than some of the others. So I'm going to dip my brush in water, and I'm just going to add a drop of water to that just to make sure it's nice and conditioned and ready to use. And I think the other ones are okay. Make sure that one's mixed up. And the reason I like to mix or stir with the handle of the brush is because if you stir with the hairs of the brush, then you got to rinse it out before you go to the next one, and you waste a lot of product. So just do it either with a tool or just the handle of your brush. Okay. So on the greenware, we're going to use the colors just straight as they are out of the bottle after you shake them well. Okay. So we're going to use a square shader, and I'm going to pick up the number 8 Kolinsky. This is the 5200 series. So this is a Kolinsky Sable. This is the highest grade. Okay, so there's a lot of different grades of hairs out there. If it just says sable, that doesn't mean it's Kolinsky sable. Kolinsky is the highest grade. It's dressed more, it's refined. You can get that nice chisel edge that you see, and everything is, it's just a better, the other ones are kind of bushy. But remember, when your brush is dry, it's like the hair on your head. The hairs fan out more. When they're wet, then they hold their shape. Okay, so don't look at a brush when it's dry. And if you get a brush that's brand new and it's got sizing in it, make sure that you're not going like this and breaking the sizing. Rinse it out in water and then you can look at it. Okay, because all you're going to do is possibly give it split ends, so to speak. Okay, so I'm going to fully load in my light color. And let me zoom in just a little bit. Make sure you can still see me. All right. Fully load in the light. The other thing that I like to do is to make sure the writing of the brush is towards me. So I'm going to corner load this bottom corner. If the writing is where I can read it, I will always know which corner has my dark color in it. And I'm going to add about halfway, no more than halfway, a third. And then you want to blend it on your palette. Blend, blend quickly, flip it over and blend. So you want to make sure that you have the same color and you're not laying the dark on top of the light. Usually the first time that I load the brush, I'll do it twice. And I'm going to add just a little bit more of that dark. The dark goes to the center. And I don't know a good way to lay this here that you can see it, but maybe that'll work. Okay, and we're just going to do like an M stroke or a wave. So I'm gonna try to hold it so you can see it. So I'm tilting it. So I'm gonna set it down and then I'm gonna press and lift and lift and lift. So it's like little scallops or closed C strokes as I'm going around. Okay, reload for each stroke so that you have the same intensity of color. Press and lift, press and lift, press and lift. Remember, your pattern is a guide. It's not gospel. Any questions, Jenny? Press and lift, press and lift, press and lift. Okay, no questions. All right. So it you know, this is greenware that I'm working on right here. Okay. You could do it if you're not if you don't like greenware, you can soft fire your greenware to an 010 and that makes it white like bisque. Did we stop, Jenny? Okay. All right. It just said my internet was restored, so I'm not sure what's going on. They're building a lot of homes in the area. And, okay. Um, so the other thing to think about is I'm going to do 3 colors of flowers. So I've got these are both pinks and yellow. So I'm going to do, and you can mark it yellow, and then maybe I want a pink one here and a yellow one here. Let's do yellow, yellow, pink, because the daisies are going to be the blue. Okay. Um, and just reload each corner. If for some reason you get the color, the dark color all the way across the brush, then you would need to rinse, blot out the moisture, and reload um, a new fresh one. We have a couple of questions, okay? Okay, so the question is, would I use the same brushes to paint these flowers in acrylics? No, not unless I had a separate, but these are quite pricey. Okay, the number 4 round I'm giving away is $22.45. Okay, so this brush here is $22.45. I don't think I would spend that on acrylics because a lot of times people don't get their brushes clean enough with acrylics. So no, I would use a Taklon brush or a synthetic, and we do carry those. Those are our 2000 or our twos. 2000 number 5 would be the round. So like here is a number 5 synthetic or Taklon, and this is the sable. It's a number 4. But this is a man-made. Okay, so acrylics, I would use a man-made hair. Okay, it holds the acrylics better. And then for my fired product, I usually use the Kolinsky or Sable brush. Good question. Okay, another question. I have different sets on. The question was, do I have a set of the brushes? Most of them are individual. I do sell a set. It's a 13-piece set that has a combination of both types of brushes in it, and they work well for glass or ceramic. So you might look at that, Jenny, if you can find. I believe it's on the sale page. It's the 13-piece. I don't remember, premium brush set, I think is what I called it. Okay, so you can see when it's wet, it looks, the water petal wetness, and when it's dry, you can tell it looks chalky. Okay, so constantly reload, and you see how I'm in the same spot. I'm not making rabbit tracks all over because that holds that color there, and I can go back in and just grab from there, and you'll waste less product. Okay, so start, and what you're doing is pivoting the brush as you're waving it in and out, in and out. I'm just going to grab what's on my palette there. So this is these products are translucent underglaze, or in the ceramic world, we call them one strokes, believe it or not. That is, in the acrylic world, that is a type of stroke. So same principle would apply whether you were using this product or another product. The brush strokes are the same. Okay. Um, Okay, so Jenny just posted the link for that 13-piece set. Look at what's in the set. It does have one of our tools, fan brush. I don't remember all the different ones, rounds and squares. There's a mop brush in there. The golden onyx ones are the Taklon ones, man-made ones. Okay. All right, so you can see how that looks dry, and then some of them are still wet. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and do the pink ones on the bisque also. There again, just mark yourself what you want pink, and we'll go from there. All right. So same thing. I'm not changing anything. The greenware absorbs the product more. So I think you get a stronger color. Now this one is like underneath and it's like a half. So I'm just going to have to kind of tap the colors in there because I don't want to, unlike acrylics, you see everything with this, okay? So you can't really layer too much as far as under and over. They do not cover. They are translucent underglazes, okay? Key, okay? So you see it's the same, and I'll show them to you side by side so that you can see the difference when I get these painted. Any other questions, Jenny? Okay, no more questions. All right, so just continue around. You're pivoting. So that's, you've made a V, and so you're outside. The dark color is going to stay near the center. The light color should follow the outer edge of where your petal is. Okay, so you have to pivot, lift up, and lift up. It may take 3 strokes, or it may take 4 waves. It really depends on how much pressure. Who can answer what a brushstroke is? Does anybody remember that lesson from weeks and weeks ago? I might even give away another brush if you can say what the answer is. What is a brushstroke? It's a combination of, and you guys have to fill in the blank. And Jenny will have to watch because I cannot see the comments because of. Correct. Who is it? Talisa? Yes. Color, pressure, and motion. All right, so Jenny, would you write down, let's give Talisa a 2000 number 5 round brush. See, if I say it enough, you guys will remember, right? Okay, thank you, Jenny. All right, so color, pressure, and motion. So I'm adding two colors. They need to be the same consistency so that they load properly on the brush. And then the motion and the pressure that I put down will determine how large that stroke is. And the motion is I'm waving it up and down. And this looks much different than acrylic. So if you're an acrylic painter, it's a little bit different than what you'll be used to. Okay, so I'm going to rinse that brush. And you would not, if you buy the Kolinsky or the Sable brushes, do not use those grates that are in the bottom of water bowls. And I'm going to show you this one. So these grates down here, you would not use that with your natural hair. Okay, your Kolinsky, your Sables, because what that does is basically think of it as if I would take you outside and I would hang you upside down, and this would be the hair on your head across the sidewalk. It's going to give you split ends. Okay, so don't do that. Do not, if you take care of these, they'll last forever. Okay, but if you abuse them, and that would be abuse, so just swish them clean. You can use like ivory soap to clean your brushes also. Okay, so here is uh, of course, it's going to absorb differently onto the greenware, so it looks really dry on this one. These still are wet because the bisque is not as porous as the greenware is. Okay, so this is going to hold more color. It's going to be a little bit brighter. Most people probably wouldn't recognize the difference, um, but I will. Okay, let's go to the next color. So we've got two yellows. We're using lemon peel and curry. 122. Fully load in the light. Am I on camera? Okay. Actually, I'm going to switch. Okay. Switch back and let that one dry. And I'm using a just a towel here because if I happen to set the piece down really hard, at least that'll keep it from breaking, hopefully. And if you've got students that are not used to working on greenware, then definitely on a towel or a foam. Even though I do have like a foam padding underneath here, I still like when I'm on greenware to use this. So did you notice I loaded twice? Remember I told you a lot of times when I start out, I'll load twice. Press, 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 press. Reload, corner in the light, corner in the dark. Blend that. And the reason you're loading for each stroke is so that you get the same intensity of color on each petal. Okay, so press and lift, press and lift, press and lift. And you're pivoting as you're doing that. Yes, we have a question. I prefer greenware because it absorbs more of the product. It's not just sitting, it's more porous, even though bisque is porous, but your greenware is going to absorb better. So if you're okay working on greenware, that is my preference personally. It's just hard unless you're pouring your own. It's hard to find greenware anymore. What's Shelly's last name? Oh, okay, Shelly Nichols. I thought it was my teacher, Shelly, and I was going to get her. Okay, so how many coats, Shelly Nichols wants to know, do I put for the green? I'm only going to put one coat. That's it. Now, you could base in the light color if you wanted, and then come back and do light and dark on your brush at the same time and do a second coat. But this is, remember I said it's like a one stroke type method. So, and here I'm going to have to kind of squish it to get it in there. Okay. So Myra's asking what color will this be after it's fired? It's going to be similar to this as far as the yellows and the pinks. These are a little bit lighter than what these are going to be because this was done with a product 20 years ago. Okay. Not this product. So it'll intensify in the firing. Okay. So I'm going to do both of these in yellow. Press and lift, press and lift, press and lift, press and lift. And if you've got enough in that center, you can just grab and reload. But you see how I turned those circles, the donuts, into the flowers? And that should help you design your own pieces. Like I said, it's just a guide. You don't have to, and I'm not. I always paint larger than what I put a pattern on or sketch on. I don't know why, but I've just always done that. And it will depend on the size brush that you're using also, how large it is. So keep that in mind. Any other questions, Jenny? Okay, no questions. All right, so press and lift, press and lift, press and lift, press and lift. Grab a little bit more of that yellow. So you saw that I put out maybe nickel size of the colors. I'm doing 2 projects, and it should be lighter color sometimes is the one that you'll use more of because you're loading the brush with it. Okay, so you can see dry, wet. Okay, and I'm going to spritz this at the end, and I'm going to show you what colors it actually will turn out to be. And there's a little trick to that. Okay. All right, so let's load again. Any questions on the brush strokes itself? How to accomplish that? So I'm starting on the chisel edge, press and lift, press and lift, press and lift, press and lift. So you're pivoting, you're keeping the light side around the outside, the dark side stays in that V. So even if you just draw little V's, that will help you stay focused. And I do this, I didn't put the pattern on there just for you guys. I do it for me. It keeps me focused on exactly where I want the design. Okay. Reload to get that same intensity. And again, these are color concentrates that can be used on greenware or bisque. Now, I know somebody's going to say, well, can I do it on glass? Yes, you could do it on glass. You would need, I would tell you to fire it and set the color to burn away all of the binders before you cap it. And there are instructions and cheat sheets and things out there on the glass pages. You can do the strokes. Now, if you want a black background, like I'm showing on the ceramics, I would do them on black glass or do them on clear and then back it with black glass. Okay, just don't get too thick. Where you're going to run into the issues is if the product is too heavy in the center. So, but you can do it with designers or you can do it with the CCs, either one. Any questions? Yes, I'm going to put, Jen wants to know brush strokes on the daisies. I've got one more flower and then I'll do the daisies. We're going to do, we'll use a round brush versus the square. And we're just going to do like a comma stroke or just a straight press, pull, and lift on those, Mr. Den. All right, so one more stroke. And I'm going to try to stay off of that other flower. Okay. Swish that clean. And I like to come to the paper towel after I clean the brush and just blot it. And you'll be able to tell if there's still product and color in your brush. Okay. All right, so let's go back to the greenware one. And we have a couple of different rounds, and I didn't give Jenny these links to put in, but there, of course, you've got the Golden Onyx, which is the Taklon round, and it works, but it's harsher. It pulls off a lot of the product that you're putting on. We also have what's called the Bavarian rounds, and they have not as much of a point at the end that the, where did I put my 4? There we go. That these have. Okay, so You've got a Taklon. The Bavarian is more of a rounded point, and then the Kolinsky round. These are Kolinsky also, but the Bavarian is like if you're a beginner and you just can't get the stroke, I would go with the Bavarians, which are the 500 series. Okay, but tonight, since I'm giving away a 4, I'm going to use the 4 Kolinsky. Always wet your brush before you start, blot, and then now I'm going to load in the light color, and this has been sitting here for a minute. I'm going to kind of stir it. Fully load, and when you fully load, you're basically shampooing the brush, okay? So you just like wetting your hair, I wet the brush, and then you're adding the product to it. And I'm going to kind of shape it so I get a nice point. And then I'm going to dip or tip it in, and that blue, I can tell you, is still a little thick because I had to kind of grab it twice. So I added another drop of water, and I think I'll add one more. If they're not the same consistency, remember what I said, you're not going to be able to load it properly. Okay, so you shouldn't have to work at it, in other words. So I've got, sorry, a light with the dark on the tip, and I'm going to pull from the outside in. So I'm going to press down, kind of fan it out a little bit, pull, lift, 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 slightly turn the brush. So what I'm doing, there's a little chunk. What I'm doing is just slightly pulling, and then I'm just making this little turn just to kind of gather all the hairs to come to a point. Okay. Any questions, Jenny? Okay, no questions. All right, so fully load, tip. Turn your piece. That's the biggest thing. People want to sit and try to work at it at all different angles, and you don't get the same stroke. Sometimes you can just load with just the tip. And I'm not rinsing. I'm just going back into the light blue, tipping in the dark blue. You should always pull towards yourself. Okay, so we may have went in and out. It looks like for whatever reason my internet is now it's back. Okay, it's having some issues, so you may see me stalled and then it'll come back on. Sorry, guys. It's live. You know, you never know what's going to happen. Tip, load and tip, press, pull, and lift. And I bet you can't see that as well as if I'd hold it up. All right, so I've got the dark on the end. Press to determine how large it is, pull and lift to a point. Okay. So Julie asked, do I add water to the colors or use them straight out of the bottle? I try to use them straight out of the bottle, but as I was working, some of the darker colors tend to be thicker and you need to add a drop or two of water. So I just went to my water basin with my handle and my brush, and I brought a dot of water over here. And so I don't add water unless they're thick. That's it. Okay. Don't add water unless they're thick. The only time I add water is if I'm airbrushing, I will thin it down. So you can airbrush with these also. We have 41 colors available. We have them in kits or we have them singly. There is a ceramic underglaze kit that when you buy the kit, it has, I think, 14 colors plus a pint of the clear glaze in there. And a lot of times the kits will be a little bit cheaper, but you can buy them singly. They come in 1 ounce, which is this size, 2 ounces, this one, and a pint would be this big. Okay, so I'm not going to add clear glaze, but I'm going to, it depends on, so Talissa asked, when do I add the clear glaze? I would fire this to bisque and then I would clear glaze. Now, if you're asking, would I add it to a product? Tonight I'm doing brush strokes, so we don't have to add anything to this. Now, when I get ready to do the black background on the bisque, I'm going to add CSPO2 Designer Glaze Medium, and that's what I just had here. The Designer Glaze Medium has an opacifier in it, meaning it makes things more opaque. And I'll show you, and we're going to thin with water because of the technique that I'm going to use to put the black on there. Okay, but this is a new one. Could you use the clear to do it? Absolutely. This is just going to make it cover quicker. So we have 3 different mediums. We have the gloss, the designer, and the matte. And the matte or the designer will make it more opaque. Okay, so there's your daisies. So whatever goes on the brush last comes off first, and it variegates through that stroke. Color, pressure, and motion. 2 colors. The amount of pressure determines the width or the size of the stroke, and the motion, whether you're pulling it or wiggling it or curving it, that's your motion. Color, pressure, and motion. Good questions. Now it's going to glide a little easier on the bisque because it's not as porous as the greenware, but the greenware is absorbing more of the product where the bisque is not. It's absorbing some, but it's not absorbing like greenware. The O10, if you soft fire to an O10, then that will absorb just like greenware, but it's more durable if you're working with seniors or maybe you just don't like to work on greenware. The O10 firing, so it soft fires it is what it's called. It turns it white so it's not that gray greenware look. I'm tilting this so you can see the stroke. Press, pull, lift, lift, lift. So I'm slightly turning. You see how my brush is bent? Because I just had it pressed down and I'm slightly turning it. And I'm not worried about any dark blue in my light blue because these colors are variegated on those petals. And you need to, have a plan. I'm turning my piece. I'm pulling it towards me. And this is a piece of bisque. This is a trivet, and it's from Bisque Imports. It's very heavy, and I noticed it's got a blemish in it. So it is what it is. Color, pressure, and motion. So press, pull, and lift. See, that one I didn't have as much darker blue on. But if I go back over that, it's going to change, and that one's going to be darker than the other ones. So I'm just going to leave it. Not every petal is the same on a flower. Okay, we've got one more over here on the other side. Any other questions, Jenny? Okay, no questions. You guys are pretty quiet tonight. You're watching, hopefully, and learning. So press, pull, and lift, and you can use your own color combinations. Just use a light and a dark. So when I'm doing brush strokes, I like to use just the pure color. The more product that you have on your brush, it makes it harder to do the strokes. It's just thicker. It just doesn't work as easily, in my personal opinion. Press, pull, and lift. All right, those are done. Rinse your brush. Now we're going to add some leaves. We're going to do what's called a wedge stroke. And I'm going to use 160 key lime and 162 laurel green. Again, shake those. Mesmerized by my Donna Dewberry technique. Well, I've been doing these strokes for almost 30 years. So it's stroke work. Okay. Yes, Donna does similar. She calls it different. but I think we all, you know, we won't go there. All right, so what I'm doing is rinsing out that center because I want to be sure I have a clean area to blend my greens. Okay, so Sue just tuned in. So what I'm using is a number 4 Kalinsky. This is our 5,000 number 4 round. And then for the 5 petal flowers, I use the number 8 Kalinsky square shader, which is 5,200 size 8. So they're natural hairs. Okay, so now I'm going to do the little wedge strokes on the leaves. So I'm going to load in a light, corner in a dark, and I'll show you how I do those. Now, remember what I said, dark colors tend to be thicker. So what am I going to do? I'm going to add a drop of water to that just to make it the same consistency as my lighter green. And I use my handle of my brush because I won't waste product. I am going to go back to the number 8 square shader to do my leaves. So I'm going to fully load in the light green. So, okay, so Anne wants to know if I'm doing this on glass, would I use it straight out of the bottle? Yes, but I probably I would be a little thinner with my, how much I'm putting on my brush. Okay, and you could use the sables, but I also use the Taklon brushes on glass too, and that keeps it a little thinner. Because the Taklon being like this one here, okay, it's a waxy coating, and so everything just falls off of it. Whereas the sable brush, it absorbs the color and it hangs on there until you put it down on something. So you don't get as good of a coverage with the Taklon as you do with the sable. So yes, you can use it straight from the bottle. Just don't get it too thick. Pre-fire it, and you won't be able to do the black technique when I get ready to do the background because that's completely different. What do we do when we first load a brush with a color? We load it twice and we blend it. So don't go 1, 2, 3. You want to do it quickly so that it pushes that color across the brush. Okay. And I'm going to pull these strokes toward me. I'm going to turn the dark color towards the flower, and I'm going to press, pull, lift, lift, and come off the chisel edge. Recorner in light, recorner in dark, blend those colors. So I've got my shape here, but I may not be following. Remember I said your pattern is just a guide? Press, pull, and lift. This is called a wedge stroke. I flipped it over, so my writing the brush is towards me. The dark is always on the same corner, but I want the dark next to the flower. So I'm going to flip the brush over, press, pull, and lift. I think I've got enough dark green here, so I'm just going to add the light green. If you're left-handed, you may push away from yourself. So you would press, pull, and lift away. Press, pull, and lift away. Thank you, Miss Isabel. She said it was a masterpiece. I don't know about that, but I like doing brush strokes. Press, pull, lift. Press, pull, lift. So I'm just winging it and putting these wherever I think I need. And we will come back and do detail with black later. So what I may do is just detail, so we don't go too long tonight, a portion. But I want to show you enough of these that you feel comfortable. And I'm spinning it, sorry. I'm making you dizzy, maybe. And, you know, I push away from myself and I pull, but as a rule of thumb, always try to pull your strokes towards yourself. You'll have more control with that stroke. Did you have a question, Jenny? Okay, no questions. Just make sure you look at your brush when you go down to blend to make sure you're not going to put the light on top of the dark or vice versa. Okay. You got to stop and think about it. Press, pull, and lift to the chisel. So this is called a wedge stroke. I'm going to add one here. And remember, we're going to have black in the background. So press, pull, and lift, press, pull, and lift. Any other questions? Okay. Are you able to see the strokes with me tilting it so that it's easier? Okay, she said yes. All right, guys. Any questions about what I'm doing? So you can do this on, okay, you can, no questions. You can do it on greenware or bisque, and you can also do it as Magelica or Myolica, it is referred to, which is on top of a non-moving glaze. So you could put down our matte medium, and then you could use the strokes on top. I always add a little bit of the medium. We'll do one of those another time. Okay, I think I like that the way it is. Well, I need one more here. I don't have my 3. I usually tend to do 2 and 1, so you have a cluster of 3 on each flower. That is, odd numbers are better than even. Now watch me. And then do you see this triangle? Donna Dewberry will talk about, and I didn't even think about it, but it ended up being that way because it's just something I've always done. You've got a triangle of one color, and then you've got a triangle of this one and this one. That's a good design. Okay. And then that ends up with 9, right? Or is that 8? 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 9. So that gives you an uneven, number, and that's what you want. You don't want the even numbers when you're designing. Okay. So let's do this one here. Press, pull, and lift. Do you see? I mean, it's more translucent on the bisque. Okay, because it doesn't absorb like the greenware does. So if I have my preference, I would rather work on greenware. You just don't find it anymore. I'm flipping the brush over and I'm going slow. Remember that when you're doing a brush stroke, think of it as, this is what I teach in my classes, think of it as the airplane does not get to the end of the runway and just stand straight up. Okay, it gently comes off the runway. Well, hopefully it's gently. So when you're doing your strokes, you want to make sure that you stop and think about where you're going, what you're doing. Don't just jerk that brush up. You want to keep it in line. Okay, we have a question. No, she asked when I lift, am I pulling to one side? And no, I'm coming off. I'm trying to find a piece of paper here. I'm coming off on the chisel edge, and I don't have my sketch pad with me. Okay, so hopefully you can see this. So I'm pressing down to determine the width of the leaf. And as I lift up on that chisel edge, and then I'm just coming off on the chisel. So press, pull, and lift. So I'm not turning. I'm just allowing, if you have a good brush, it's going to come back to that chisel edge. Okay, so just press, pull, and lift. Hopefully that answered that one. Okay, and that was who? Talisa? Okay, so Talisa, she's referring to the fluff that's in the acrylics. No, the designer glaze medium is an extender. It keeps it open longer, but it is a glaze. Okay, it's not inside these. These are pure pigment and a gel base. There's nothing else in these. Okay, so I'm going to add this because of the technique that I'm going to use on the black. We're actually going to flood that black color in. okay, which is something totally different that we haven't done before. So no, it's not what's in there. So the fired products are a little bit different than your non-fired products. But that was a good question. Press, pull, and lift. And you see, I'm always going back and adding more product on, whether I'm picking it up just there in the middle or I'm getting it out of the palette, the actual color. Constantly reloading and blending to keep that nice color going. Okay. All right. I don't think I need to, I'll use what's in this brush, and then I'm going to go on to less pressure, smaller strokes. Okay. All right. I'm not going to finish that just for the sake of time. I'm going to go to the next step. So either with, we have what we call a stubby brush. Okay. The stubbies are a red handle. They're a mongoose hair. So they're stiffer. They're great to stipple in the center with your ceramic product. You can use it on glass too. So I'm going to grab some of the yellow that we had, the lighter yellow, and I'm just going to kind of stipple in a little bit on those centers on a few of them. And I'm going to add a little bit of the, I should have pounced that out, the key lime. So load, pounce it out a little bit. You can add a little bit on there. I'm going to go back to the yellow, just kind of pounce it. And when you pounce something and it's like a, I don't know if you can see that, it's a bad hair day is what I call it. It gives it uneven. So it has, some areas are hitting 2 coats, some are 1, so that you have different color values in that center. Okay, and then I'm going to grab some of the key lime, add that, and you can do that off to one side. You could also put brown in here if you wanted. All right, let me just quickly do that. All right, rinse that brush. Okay, so the question is, would the stubby work with acrylic? It would. It's not a real expensive brush. You just have to make sure that you get your product out of there, okay? A way to clean your brushes, if you get acrylics in them that you can't get clean, is to put a little bit of rubbing alcohol or vodka, if you have vodka and drink, in the bottom of a cup, but you don't want that vodka or alcohol to come up over that ferrule. So you just shallow, let it sit in there, and then just work it out with some soap and water. Don't use Dawn detergent, and then you will get it out of there. Okay. Would I use this? Probably not. I would probably go to a synthetic brush that's cheaper. But good question. Okay. All right. So now you would outline. Okay. So you can see these. So I outline, I put some stamens. Years ago, I used a raised brown, black, and white. These are by another company. I'm not going to tell you who it is because it's not my product, but just to, you can still just put dots in the background too. Okay. And I'm going to put a little bit of this black in the center of my palette to do this particular step. Go to the 3600 number 2 liner. Again, it's sable. And I'm also going to add a little bit of water and mix just a portion of that up. I'm not going to thin down the whole puddle. There's no sense in that. It's going to evaporate before I ever get to it. And just keep pulling it so that you get, and I'm just wiping off any drips or anything on my sponge. So you don't want the water to run down. But it's a well. You're loading that well and just pulling through it to get a nice point. Okay. And then you will want to come around and then just add a few lines. So I'm just going to do a couple of these so that we can get the black on there and show you how that works. And I'm going to go ahead and do the center vein on that leaf. I already have the dark on this side, so Of course, the dark's going to be all the way around it, so I guess I need to, but you can kind of practice. And this is like building that barrier where the black is going to come in and keeps your eye from, flooding too far, is what I'm trying to say. Stand on the tippy toes. I'll tilt this a little more so you can see. I'm just up on the very tip. If I press, and I'm not worried about thick and thin on these because of what we're doing in the background. If you were not putting the black background, then you could come in like that and do some thick and thin. But we're going to put the black in there, so you don't need to worry about that. Center vein, come around. Now you want to make sure you outline because these are out in the open. And you can do the single, years ago. You got to remember, this is 20 years ago. Hopefully I'm better now than I was then. I did put some side veins. It doesn't look as good as I think it does without it, so I'm not doing that now. Okay. We all evolve and change as we age, so to speak. Any questions, Jenny? No questions. You guys are quiet. Okay. Okay, so let me get a couple of flowers on here outlined, and then I'm going to show you the black. Okay, and then I can always do this all later. So I'm dividing those petals the way I stroke them on. Okay, constantly reloading. Make sure you kind of go around that center, which I forgot, and add you some little dots. Just with the tip of your brush, you can add, and you can even kind of create a little center, a divot within that. Okay. Oh, I petal. I did miss a. Did somebody tell me I missed it? Oh, Jenny's telling me I missed a petal on the blue flower. I see that now. Thank you. I would have figured that out eventually. I thought maybe Den was watching me close. Okay. It is. And just, get some food coloring, put it in your water, and practice on paper. Or you can do that practicing on bisque, and the food coloring will burn off. You can just put it back in your 06 firing, and it burns off just fine. Let me do this leaf because I think I'll get close to it when I'm doing this. All right. And let me do a couple on here real quick, and then we will show you the black, okay? So yeah, and a good brush. Like I said, this is the 3600 number 2. We have 3 sizes in it. This is the larger of them. I think there's a 0 and a 5/0. So find something that's going to work for you. And it depends on how thin your product is. So a brush stroke is color, pressure, and motion. So how thin or thick the color in is will make the difference. The amount of pressure you put down, which is, I'm not putting any pressure hardly at all. And then just the motion that you're pulling it or dragging it. So just practice, and you can go in and you can even add these little, I call them little tick marks at the top of the stamens and randomly, and that just adds a little more interest to it. You can even do a wavy outline of the center if you wanted to. Let me do one more real quick, and then we'll flood. I just want to have a big enough area that you can see what's going to happen. Now, I can tell you my black is getting a little thick. It's starting, the water is evaporating, so I just added a brush load of water to it. And if you do just this nervous kind of an outline, then if you make a mistake and you're not perfect, guess what? Nobody will ever notice it. That's what I've always told my students. and make some short and some long lines. And I'm going against my rule of pulling towards myself. All right, so let's add this. And I can always go back and so now see where I did that larger black there because I pressed too hard. So to correct that, I'm just going to go over here and maybe here and here and add a few others. Then it's not as noticeable. So that's how you clean up one of those mistakes. All right, let's put the leaves here and then we'll be ready to do the bisque. Or, I mean, do the black. Okay, so if I'm going to do the greenware one first because I don't have to add anything to it. Okay, so now you can take a pencil and you can say, okay, I only want, what I'd like to do is to guide it or maybe go to there and see, I'm probably going to have to do more of it, but I can come back and do that. So I find an angle. I think you can see that. Yes, you can. And then you can come all the way out to the edge. And then you can always use your foam brush around the very edge of it if that's what you want to do. Okay, so I'm going to take this black and put it in a well and add more. And I'm going to thin it with water. And I'm putting quite a bit in there. And if you've got a container with water in it, you can add. I'm probably going to add about half as much, so the dot of black that I had in there, I added half as much water to it. So I don't know if you can see. I mean, it drips pretty fast off of that brush. Be careful how much you load on your brush, but you're going to, and I'm still with the liner, you're going to stand up straight. And I'm thinking I want to move in closer. Hold on one second. And then I'm going to have to, oh, look what I did. I dropped my black. Oh, well, we'll adjust. Okay, I think you can see that there. All right, so I'm going to start out away from the design. And I'm just, it's similar if you do the glass products with me, like your flood and fill, except for this is going to absorb, and you only have to put one coat when you're on the greenware. On bisque, you may have to put 2 coats. So I'm just flooding that color, and it stays pretty wet on the top. I have a mess. Keep it stirred up. Remember, color is heavier than water, so it tends to fall to the bottom. So I'm just guiding that color in place. I'm not bending the brush. I'm just letting it fall off the tip, and I'm flooding it in. Any questions on this? So I slightly thinned, not quite 50-50, but enough that it falls off freely off my brush. That's one of the ways to tell if you've got it thin enough. And you can also create the shape of that leaf. Maybe like I'm going to have to change the shape of that one because I dropped color on it. Any questions about this? No questions yet. Okay. It does take time to do this. You could do it with any color, but you want to thin it. You don't want to put your pure color down because it's going to be too thick. If you get too thick with your translucent underglazes, it can pop and crack. So that's why we're thinning it and just flooding that color on. Pool and petal, like the drop and fill. And then when you don't have as much on your brush, you can come into those smaller areas and detail. Okay, so when you go to the bisque, what you're going to do is you're going to add 50-50 with the Designer Glaze Medium, the CSP02 Designer Glaze Medium. It's an opacifier, meaning it makes things opaque. You do not want to ever use it over the top of your colors because they will look milky. It's only used as a additive, so to speak, to the concentrates to do this you can put it down as a base and it'll make your bisque really white, which is nice. I have a technique called designer flowers, I think I called it. Um, it has the designer glaze medium as a base, and then I did Magelica on top of it. Okay, so you can kind of see, I hold this up. Not sure you can see it really well. Some of it's dry, some of it's wet, but you get the idea. Any questions about this before I move to the bisque one? Okay, no question. You guys are quiet. Okay, so you get the general idea. Now, when you come out here, you have to determine where that's going to stop. So I'm going to bring this one all the way up there. Even though I don't have it finished, I can fake it. Keep that black stirred up as you're working. And I'm going to kind of create a little so that you can see the effect here. The color is heavier than the water, so keep it stirred up as you're working. It may even evaporate as you're working, and you need to add a little bit more water. If it's not flowing off the brush, then it's not thin enough. It should just fall off. This should be like a well, and it should just drip off. Okay, we have a couple of questions. Not on greenware, because the question is no problem with it running into the other colors. I always start in a large area and then I go to my small. So start away from your design, and then when you have less product on your brush, get closer to your design, and the greenware, it's going to like suck it up and grab it. So no, it's not. And if you do, you're just changing the shape of that petal or leaf or whatever you're doing. So like this one here, maybe I want it to come out here a little bit, and there's a gap in between these leaves. I can add a little black there. So just kind of let it work with your, see that one ran a little bit because I should have started further out. I just broke my own rule. Is there much chance of streaking is the question. As far as the black, no. If you have it thinned where it's flooding on, and you can't see it on camera, but it's kind of wet and puddly on the top, so it's getting pretty dark. It shouldn't streak unless you're doing too much brushing, which is like our brush strokes that we used on the flowers. You're going to see variegation of color. Okay, so I can bring this all the way over here. So no, if you're applying it correctly, you shouldn't see any streaking in the black background. Now, the nice thing is you can always fire and set. Well, you have to fire the greenware. So it has to go to an 04. You can always check it. If you see something, you can touch it up. Okay, so you see how I'm just coming around. So you can, okay, so you can see how that just kind of, you create that background based upon what, I mean, you could do the whole center black, but see how I determined, I kind of just created it based upon my brush strokes that were there. And then this one, see, I filled in with the black here and here, and then I brought it all the way up to that rim. Whereas at the bottom here, I brought it all the way down. So it just depends. And then if you want, like here I had these dots, but what you can do is take a brush handle, and I'm going to pick a larger handle, and you can come in, and if you load for each dot, they should be similar in size. Just make sure that you don't lift too quickly, because I did, and I had a little bit of what I call a splatter. And then I come in and go in between those in the same distance. So I always start in the large area, and then it depends on how precise you want to be. Okay, so that's a way to, and then like maybe I just want one over here because I have some space. And here, and here. You can create that in the background. Okay. All right, let's move on to the bisque one. So for the bisque one, we want to do the designer glaze medium with it. So I've got water already in here. So what I'm going to do is just make sure you shake that up good. And I'm going to add equal parts. I'm going to add me some more black. And a smidge more of water. So I would start out with the black and the designer equal amounts, and then add water just a little bit. Stir it up, and you'll be able to tell. And the reason I add the designer is because if I get too heavy, that designer is going to keep it from cracking and popping, because you're basically putting glaze into it. Okay, and it's going to look a little grayish compared to, I don't know that it shows on camera, but it is a little grayer than what's sitting up there on the top. Okay. And same thing. We're going to drop and fill. So I've got like a drop of it on the end. I do put 2 coats on bisque as opposed to 1. Yes. So I'm only going to put, because of the black background and to eliminate any brush strokes or unevenness, I do put 2 coats, but the brush strokes are just 1 coat. And it would be this, you know, you're just flooding and filling, just letting it fall off the tip. I've got like a drop. It's hard for you to see that, but, and start away from your design so that it doesn't run, and then you can kind of push whatever's on the top there over close to your design. The less product on your brush, go into the smaller areas. Okay. So I'm only adding the designer glaze medium to the product on bisque, not on greenware. And let me show you the color difference. I think you can maybe not be able to tell that. This is just brighter because it's absorbed more, the greenware. This is sitting on the surface. It's going to take longer to dry. And we're applying it very thick. You're flooding it on, pull and pedal, drop and fill. I'm going to take some off of my brush so I can go over here and get in. And you can kind of just grab what's sitting on the surface and kind of pull it into some of those areas. Okay. Any questions, Jenny? No questions. All right. So you get the hang of it. You don't have to do the black background. You know, it's just another option. Prizes. Okay, so Jenny's going to start spinning the wheel, so make sure you've commented. Did we get people from YouTube on here too? Okay, so make sure, guys, that you, so because sometimes I upload videos to YouTube, make sure that you subscribe, ring the bell, so that you'll get notifications when I come on. And that allows me to keep doing these free videos for you, okay? If you like and share the post from tonight, oh, that's what I forgot to do. I'll have to do that later. I'll have to announce it. I forgot to go back and do last time's. We have I will actually give one of these pieces away to, I'll have a drawing for whoever likes and shares the video. I will give away one of these pieces, okay? So you see how it's flooding in. Okay, so first we're going to give away the combination of the black CC 2 ounce and the designer glaze medium in an 8-ounce. And Jenny's going to spin and tell you who wins that. If you already have it and you don't, or maybe you're a glass person and you don't want it, if you want to put it back in the drawing for somebody else, just let Jenny know by commenting, okay? And if you win, oh, sorry. Okay, the winner is, okay, spell that for me. Pat, Stgigstad. Okay, if you'll type it in the comments too for me. So Pat, you won these two. If you don't do ceramics, you won't need, you can always use the black on your glass, but if you don't do ceramics, you won't need this. So just message me your email and address that you want that shipped to. If you're going to place an order, let me know that, and I'll wait and send it with your order. If you're not, I will get it out within a few days, usually by the end of the week. Okay. The next prize is the number 4 Kolinsky round, and it is valued at $22.45. Myra McGarity Ellisor, is that what you said? E-L? Ellisor. Okay, same thing. Make sure you message me your address, email, phone number. That way I can put it on the tracking. And Jenny's going to write these in the comments for me. These are some new names. We've got new people on. That's awesome. Okay, so you can see how I go back and I can add in between with less on my brush. All right, the grand prize worth $50 is the CC Enhancer Kit number 3. And the winner is Dan Larson. Are you still on here, Dan? You won. Awesome. Did he? Okay. All right. So be sure and, like I said, send me your information unless you are a current customer and I already have that. All right. Okay. So hopefully that gives you some ideas on what you can do, something a little different out of the norm. Let me hold these two pieces up side by side so you can see. Okay. So similar in color, but this one, see how you can see it's a little wet and still in areas where this one is completely dry because it's absorbed. This is the greenware one. Okay. So greenware is just pure straight from the bottle. Bisque on the black, you're just adding equal parts, 50-50, the designer, thinning it with water, not quite half with water, and flooding it on. All right, we're going to try to flip back the cameras and see if we hear me, Jenny. Oh, there it goes. Okay. All right. Yeah, it popped on finally. Okay. Sorry, guys. It was delayed action tonight. Sorry about that. Internet, it's probably because of everything going on, around the country. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was useful. And you can leave comments here and I will answer those. And if you're on YouTube, you can leave comments out there also. Okay. And next week we will do glass. And I'm not sure what I'll do. I like to wait till the last minute and surprise myself. So I will let you know what we're doing, and I will see you next week. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Don't forget to like and share the video so you get in that drawing.